Hey everybody, welcome to the press. Sorry for the late show this week. I'm Ryan Ballinger. Good to have you here with us. We're doing our show on Wednesday. We're doing everything all at once. We've got two PGA Tour events this week. The Truist Championship, the signature event in North Carolina in Charlotte at Quail Hollow Club. Then just one state south. We are in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on the Grand Strand for the Oppo event, the OneFlight Myrtle Beach Classic. We also have the LPGA in action this week. They are playing the Mizuho America's Open in New Jersey. We'll talk about that on the tail end. We do have the DP World Tour in action at the Catalunya Championship. I don't really have much plays for that, but we'll touch about that. Live Golf is in Virginia, Trump National Golf Club DC. Again, we'll touch on that for a hot second, but I don't see a whole ton of value in either of those last two tournaments, but we will touch on them briefly. But first, let's get into Quail Hollow this week. Truist Championship, signature event, $20 million purse, 72-player field. Quail Hollow is one of the longer golf courses on the PGA Tour. Not quite as long as the Blue Monster last week, but still up there in that nearly 7,600-yard range. And it's kind of a brute, right? It's a George Cobb design. You've got to be able to put the ball in play. It does have RTJ touches that make it substantially tougher, especially the par 3s are really, really challenging on this golf course. The par 4s are very good on this golf course. I know there's a lot of kind of online conjecture about whether Quail Hollow is a good golf course or not. I really don't care for the purposes of this conversation. But you do have to be able to hit the ball pretty hard, I think, to have an advantage here. That doesn't mean you need it to win, though. I mean, if you look at Max Homa and Ricky Fowler, who've done very well here over the years, they've got power, but it's not like it's overwhelming power. They have very good short games. Rory McIlroy's done exceptionally well here over the years, and that's why he's playing this week. We don't have Scotty Scheffler in the field. Pretty much everybody else is around, though. I mean, not quite everybody, but pretty darn close to everybody. So, I think there's something to take away from that particularly for McIlroy and Scheffler, we follow what their movements are so much, right? Because they're the top two players. But this is more of a personal preference thing, I think, for Scotty Scheffler. But also, the reality is kind of like Matt Fitzpatrick. Matt Fitzpatrick knew he was going to play the Masters, Harbour Town, and then New Orleans because he wanted to play with his brother. And that's why he took off after that event to not play Cadillac. It's just a scheduling thing. For Scheffler, he's going to play not this week. He's going to play the PGA and probably the next two events because they're in the Texas area. And he is a good Texan. And so he shows up to Texas events like Jordan Spieth. So it's not as much of a personal preference thing, I don't think, although I'm sure he doesn't want to play it many times in a row, as much as it is about just trying to kind of space yourself a little bit better. So that said, let's take a look at top of the table this week for the Truist Championship. Rory McIlroy is your favorite at 6-1. Cam Young is 9.5 to 1. Xander Schauffele is 11 to 1, 11.25 to 1. Matt Fitzpatrick is 16.5 to 1, along with Ludovic Aubert. Siwoo Kim, I think, is a great bet this week, is 24 to 1. Tommy Fleetwood's 25. Adam Scott 33, which is very interesting to me. Patrick Cantlay, Sam Burns are 35, Bobby Max 36, Victor Hovland is 37. The guys I want to kind of touch on this week, I think Hideki's a great play here at 40 to 1. I think Ricky Fowler is a great play at 45 to 1. Same with Sepp Straka. I feel like Chris Gotterup's going to get some play here because it's a long, brutish course. I just don't feel like he's in the same form that he was not too long ago. And I think it's worth backing off on him. We'll go through the guys at about 60 to 1 here, and then we'll get into the model. After that, you have JJ Spawn, who was up at US Open Media Day, so probably feels a little inspired, probably pretty good about himself there after that. Jordan Spieth has been playing well. This is not the course for him, though. I'd rather go after Matt McNeely if you're going to play in that 50 to 1 range. Or what about Ben Griffin, who just had himself a nice week at Doral and seems to be in pretty decent form. Akshay's been playing okay. I liked him last week. I think I like him this week for the same reason. Just kind of firm and fast. It has not rained a whole lot in the southeastern United States this year. It's raining here today in the middle Atlantic, but it's been pretty droughty here too. So pretty dry all around. I think he's worth looking at. And Gary Woodland 65 to 1. Before I get to the next page of odds, I really like him. He's been playing well pretty much everywhere against high level competition. I think it's the kind of place where he can thrive and do some pretty great things. That said, let's look at the model for this week. We do it every week. We've been doing it. This is now more than 6 years since we've been doing this model. Let's go over the top 10 for this week. Rory McIlroy is number 1. That's no surprise. But he's not as big of a number 1 as I thought he would be. Scottie Scheffler would normally be a way bigger number 1 if he were playing, even over Rory. But that's not as big of a gap here between Rory and Xander. Xander Schauffele is number 2. Tommy Fleetwood 3rd. Matt Fitzpatrick 4th. Ludwig Aubert 5th. Bobby Mack 6th. Hideki 7th. Sepp Straka 8th. Sam Burns 9th. Patrick Cantlay 10th. Basically already talked about almost all of those guys, except Patrick Cantlay, who I refuse to bet out of principle. They've already been mentioned, right? They are up there for a reason. They are very good players. Now, that said, a couple of guys I want to point out that are just past that. Cameron Young is 12th, and that's just because this is a longer-term view of golf, right? He's had a great 6 months or so of competitive golf, going back to last summer, but that takes a while to kind of show up in the results here. And that says a lot for a guy that's 12th and really is just starting on his journey. Akshay is 14th. We mentioned him. Siwoo is 16th. Alex Smalley is 15th, who I think is interesting. Bud Cauley, I called out last week. I will call him out again. I like his game. I like where his game is heading. I think he could be a very interesting longer shot play this week. It's like 125 to 1 to go this week. So just some guys kind of hanging out in the top 20. Again, if you want the full slate of this model, all 72 players, you can become a member at golfnewsnet.com. Get all of this information, access to all of our tools and information every week as well. All right, let's talk about players who have done well here in the last, 3 of the last 5 years. So they didn't have Wells Fargo / Truist at Quail Hollow in 2022 because it hosted the President's Cup, and also last year because Philly Cricket had it, so Quail Hollow could host the PGA Championship. So I don't want to draw conclusions about what Quail Hollow plays like in a PGA, so I'm not talking about that as a course comparison, as a kind of last 5 years thing. The PGA is the PGA. It's a different thing. That winning score was way different than what you would expect, I think, week to week on the PGA Tour. So just please keep that in mind as we're trying to roll through this. So I'm looking at 2021, 2023, and 2024 as guys who could have multiple top 15 finishes here in that span. So one of those guys is Corey Connors, 8th and a 13th in 2023 and 2024. It's kind of hard to sort it all out, to be honest with you. Tommy Fleetwood has been in the top 15 all 3 of the Quail Hollow years, 14th, 5th, and 13th. So he's certainly got the game for it. Ricky Fowler, we know he's done it here, but he was 14th in 2023, kind of on the comeback trail that year. Max Homa, very well documented at this point. What kind of guy he is. It's he loves this darn golf course. But his win in this tournament actually happened at TPC Potomac, one of the most recent one, in 2022. So last 2 years, 8th at Quail Hollow. Then you've got Sungjae Im, who's been in the top 8 here the last 2 years. You want to look at someone like Denny McCarthy, who's played well here the last 2 years inside the top 8. Certainly Rory McIlroy has won twice in that span. I mean, it's if you're not using Rory McIlroy for one and done this week, you're saving him for a major championship. Like that's the only rationale I can have at this point. And I'm going to use Scottie Scheffler next week at the PGA because I think he's going to win. But I wouldn't be shocked if Rory won. I am going to avoid a huge name for the U.S. Open because I'm worried with what Shinnecock typically is that we could get to an unlikely champion, and I don't want to burn Scottie Scheffler on the idea that he can complete the career Grand Slam on his 30th birthday, but also may well just get smoked and not finish as well as he might hope. So let's pump the brakes on that a little bit. Xander Schauffele loves this place too. Back-to-back runner-up finishes here in 23 and 24. So clearly a reason to like him here this week. He has been playing better golf. And Gary Woodland, as I mentioned here, 5th in 2021, 14th in 2023. I think you kind of have to throw out really the last couple of years because he's been going through everything with the brain stuff. So I think he would play pretty well here otherwise. Cam Young does not have a top 15th finish at Quail Hollow. He was runner-up to Max Homa in 2022 as part of kind of his seasoning year, his rookie year at TPC Potomac. So some interesting kind of data to look at over the last few years, knowing that we really haven't seen this place every year of the last 5. But, I think that is kind of instructive and helpful. And also, I think part of you could say, if you wanted to be really cynical, Scotty Scheffler figured out a way to win at Quail Hollow and the PGA, which is a tougher setup, but doesn't particularly care for the place. And maybe that's why he's not playing this week. Doesn't really have a good finish here otherwise, but the good finish he's got at Quail Hollow is really pretty darn important. So that's pretty impressive stuff as far as I'm concerned. But again, I want to separate those events from one another. They're wholly different things, and I think that's very important to kind of keep in mind here. All right, so let's talk about some longer shot guys. Again, 72 player field, so we're not sitting on a ton of guys to go through with killer value, and I don't want to just waste your time going through every single guy in the field because we've got a whole bunch of tournaments to get through here in this show. But some other guys I want to point out did say Akshay Bhatia, did say Gary Woodland. I think those guys are worth looking at. Alex Noren is quietly playing very well again. I don't love him to win in America, and I would rather pick Corey Connors at 92-1. This is at oddschecker.com today. But, just something to think about maybe for next week or a couple weeks from now in the Texas events. But Corey Connors would be my guy to look at kind of a longer shot. Bud Cauley at 100-1 at this book. I saw him at 125-1 to start the week. You could probably bounce around and find some decent prices there. Christopher Wrighton at 100-1. He's been playing pretty well. Played very well at New Orleans in the team event. Played pretty well last week at Trump Doral. So I like where his game is heading. I like that he's got a power game. I think that can work very well here this week. If Marco Penge had found his way into this field, I would have picked him here as well for that very same reason. I think Ryan Fox can do very well here also. But I think Wrighton is a better pick. Wrighton and Cauley are better picks kind of in that range. I do think Max Homa is heading in a better direction, but I think it's not good enough to go and pick him and then watch him win this thing. But 121-1 is almost juicy enough to throw $5 on it or $10 on it and see what happens. I really feel that way. Sudarshan Yelamaraju, who is now the first alternate to the PGA Championship, is 135-1. I think this place is a little too brutish for his game, but I love it. I love what his game brings, and he's almost certainly going to get in the PGA Championship next week. He's the first alt. Sanjay M, 200-1, I think is worth at least a consideration. He's shown flashes of playing pretty well. It's not as good as it could be, but he does seem to like the golf course. Tony Finau, I am not going to bet again until he settles on a putter. He's now trying to use a broomstick, but plant it in the ground weird. No, thank you. I will never, ever, ever look at that again until that putter goes away. Denny McCarthy's 250-1. He needs points so bad. He needs to have a good week here. Really good week here. Maybe a top 10 on him could be interesting because of the course history. I think you'd get a good price on it, but that's the only way I would look at him here this week. And that's really the field. I mean, that's it. Nico Echeverria played well a little bit last week and then immediately slid away. 490-1. If you want a mega long shot first round leader play, there's your guy, Nico Echeverria. I think that's probably it. And I think that does it. Everybody else kind of in this range is not even worth looking at. And Webb Simpson got in this thing because he's a Quail Hollow member, which I think is a travesty. I think there should be no sponsor exemptions for these tournaments. None at all. You have to earn your way into these big boy events. And hopefully, I know this is commentary, it's not about betting, but hopefully in the future, these are 100-player events or whatever the number they need to be divisible by 3 because 100 isn't. But whatever your number needs to be. Make it 99, but then that's not divisible by 2. But come up with your number. Come up with a cut. Let's go. What are we doing? We shouldn't be dealing with this anymore. Okay, let's get to the Myrtle Beach Classic. Play at the Dunes Golf and Country Club in Myrtle Beach. It is right on the water. I'm down at Myrtle Beach a lot. It's basically kind of a second home for me. I've never played the Dunes, though. I've had plenty of friends who have played the Dunes. It's a lovely club. I've been there to look at the golf course, but never played the golf course. And tee to green, it's a good challenge. I mean, it's in places very susceptible to the ocean breeze. In other ways, it's not. There's plenty of forest there. It's a good golf course. You got to keep it in play, and you got to be a ball striker. And I think distance doesn't hurt, right? Look at the guys who have won it. Goddard, Ryan Fox. Those guys hit the crap out the ball. They make it a short golf course because they keep it in play, doing it well off the tee. I think that's something to keep in mind here this week. And that said, let's take a look at least this is the 120 player field, by the way. We have 4 top 50 players competing in this $4 million tournament for 300 FedEx Cup points to the winner. I think that's amazing. I think that's kind of the reality of what the PGA Tour has become. If you don't get in these things, you don't get in the signature events, you've got to find a way to keep playing. And yeah, you're not going to get a lot of points or money compared to the $20 million events, but those points can be very valuable come the end of the year for a lot of these guys. And the world ranking points can matter too. They can help you get in other things. Brooks Koepka is the favorite, as you probably know, at 16-1. I do not like that price. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to bet him. Even if he wins, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to bet him. He just hasn't demonstrated that he's a kind of must-pick guy at this point. And until that happens, I can't endorse him at that price. A lot of people will like Davis Thompson at 17-1 as the real favorite because he beats up on these worse fields and seems to really thrive on them. But you've got better players than him in this field. I know a lot of people like Rico Hoey this week. I have not seen the kind of putting turnaround that I think is necessary for him to win. He is still an incredible ball striker. That's not going away. But I just worry that he doesn't have the ability to make enough putts to make enough birdies to win this thing. It's probably close to 20 under par. Maybe a Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson could be an interesting pick at 36-1. My guy this week is Hao Tong Lee, 40-1. He's become a fan favorite. Seems to be having a lot of fun. He's playing well against better competition. This is kind of a step down for him, but this would be the exact kind of thing he would love to beat up on and get important points and get into the signatures and all that stuff. This is just his kind of event, I think. Matty Schmidt I also like quite a bit this week, playing very good golf. 40-1, seems to like these kind of seaside water adjacent golf courses, warmer golf courses. I think this is a great opportunity for him. I think I would also look at Casey Jarvis at 43-1. The South African did very, very well to kind of almost win 3 in a row on the DP World Tour, went back-to-back, first, second, I think it was. And he's basically got not quite, but close to a DP World Tour or PGA Tour card locked up through the DP World Tour. Still got a little ways to go, but he's in great shape. 2 guys I want to point out at 48-1 at Odds Checker. Blades Brown, he finished T23 or T26 here, I can't remember, when he debuted in this tournament a couple of years ago. He's so much of a better player now. He needs a 3-way T3 or better to get special temporary membership. He can do it. I know he can do it. I think he's an interesting guy to bet each way to win and a top 5 or top 10, depending on what your book offers. Sammy Valimaki at 48-1, I think is also very interesting here. Just high quality ball striker. Seems to play well on golf courses like this. Will sort of remind him of Sea Pines a little bit, where he had his breakthrough PGA Tour win. I would love to bet Johnny Kiefer at 50-1, but I just not ready for that yet. I like where it's going, but I don't think that's a very prudent play here. I like AJ Ewart at 84-1 at this book, but you could probably find him close to 100-1 elsewhere. I like him because he makes cuts. I like him because he has figured out a way to make money and earn points on the PGA Tour, coming out of Q school, and he's pretty consistent. And I think that goes a long way in tournaments like this, where everyone's kind of on edge. AJ Ewart's playing pretty well, I mean, all things considered, and I think he has taken the long view of this and is doing pretty well with it. So I like him at 84-1. And then beyond that, it starts to get a little tougher to find guys to really love. Kita Nakajima just does not have it this year. He's got to find it at some point to keep on the PGA Tour, and I know he can do it. Nick Dunlap, you can't bet, unbettable. I may bet Adam Schenk at 175 to 1. Of course, I'm biased. We've had him on our Road to French Lick show multiple times. Says he's feeling like he's getting where he needs to be. So I'll trust him at 175 to 1. I think a lot of players would tell you that, but he's a pretty honest dude. And I think I can get behind that at that 175 to 1 number as a guy that's just long enough to kind of keep it interesting, I suppose. And maybe give you a really cool sweat come Sunday. Other than that, I'm not going for anybody else, super deep, nothing like that. You got guys like Ryan Ruffles, who used to be a full-time professional, now is a full-time YouTuber. He won the Q, which is kind of their creator qualifying tournament that they film down in Myrtle Beach. He's 1,150 to 1. I'm not betting. I'm just pointing out that he's around and in this tournament. Maybe you want to look at maybe a Matt Kuchar, old Wiley veteran, who can do it one last time. That's probably a no for me. I'd probably stay toward the 40 to 60 range. Maybe consider a Billy Horschel, probably not. And then a couple of guys that are a little bit longer. A buddy of mine likes Matthew Pavon. I'll pass that along. He's similar in range to AJ Ewert. So I'll try to find a guy in the 40, 50, 60 range. Try to find a guy in the 85 to 125 range. Again, my recommendation would be AJ Ewert. I think he's a live player here. And I would throw in just a small little pizza bet wager on Adam Schenk as well. I forgot to mention, because we just went through this whole thing, but I will give you the top 10 in the model for these guys as well, just so you have it. Very different weighting because we're looking at comparison events, which are weak fields, right? But I did want to include these folks here in this. So Christian Bezadenhout was number 1, Davis Thompson number 2, Matty Schmid number 3, Blades Brown number 4, Kevin Yu number 5, and he's up there on the board for good reason. Brooks Koepka 6, Eric Cole 7, William Mao 8, Billy Horschel 9. So just wanted to pass those guys. Stephen Fisk 10th. Pass them along to you. Okay. I think that kind of catches everything that I want to catch here. Wells Fargo. We'll do some course fits for Wells Fargo real quick. So pretty comparable to a lot of other places. A little less reliance on putting, right? A little bit more off the tee than some places, but really a lot of approach play is the big thing here. So some course fits for this week. To a degree, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ryan Gerard for sure. To a degree, Jordan Spieth. Cam Young, not so much. It's actually kind of a little flip. The breakout is the same, tee to green versus putting, but he gains a lot of strokes with driver. That doesn't mean he can't do it. This just kind of course fit numbers. I mean, he's playing incredible golf. Alex Noren is a fit. Bud Cauley is a fit. So guys I brought up earlier as long shots you might want to like this week. That's for that reason. And then just some guys who are playing well, playing the best in terms of strokes gained tee to green with low variance in the last 30 tournaments. Rory McIlroy, Cam Young, Siwoo Kim, Adam Scott, lowest variance of really anybody at the top of this list. Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Kurt Kitayama. So we'll throw those guys out there as well. And then guys who are, I haven't done this one in a while, but I like it. Strokes gained, tee to green, comparing your last 50 events versus your last 10 events. So guys who are playing way better than they typically would over a 10 tournament stretch compared to the last 50 tournaments. And the biggest differences of at least a half stroke in that performance. Rory McIlroy heads the list. Cam Young, Alex and Matt Fitzpatrick, Ludwig, Minwoo Lee, Xander Schauffele, Alex Smalley, Adam Scott has really turned it on. Nikolai Højgaard, Gary Woodland, and Sudarshan Yellow-Maraju. So throw those guys out there. And that's it. Yeah, those are the guys that qualify off of that. So that's everything PGA Tour. Again, I would kind of save some bankroll for the PGA Championship next week. Try to get a couple plays in early. I really like Scotty Scheffler for this. I could also see Cam Young winning this pretty easily. If you haven't got Cam Young, that price has been halved and is probably long gone versus the 22-1 that was available sometime last week, but that's definitely not available now. Let's talk a little bit about the LPGA's event, the Mizuho Americas Open in West Caldwell, New Jersey, Mountain Ridge. This is a good golf course. This is a good tournament. It's a 120-player tournament. The cut is made to the top 50 in ties. There's a 120-player field. That's because there is a concurrent AJGA girls event on the same property at the same time, and you just kind of need to be aware of that. The top 65 and ties get paid after 2 rounds, but the top 50 and ties are the only ones who get to move up in the final 2 rounds. Gina Tickle is the defending champion here. I would not pick her. If I was going to go for a real favorite, I'd go either Charlie Hall or Hannah Green in the 14 to 15-1 range. Both play pretty well at the Chevron Championship. Ina Yoon's 22-1. I think she's a little too aggressively priced here, even though she played very well at Memorial Park. Lottie Wood is 27-1. She's been playing better the last couple of times. She's had overall a very good year, but some blah events in the Asian swing. Patty Tavatanakit and Carlotta Saganda have both played well here. They are obviously way worse of prices than you would have expected. Certainly Patty T. Carlotta's about the same, to be honest, but Patty T, way worse of a price because she just did so well the last 2 times out, including finishing in second place at the Chevron. So unfortunate there if you want to bet her, but I don't think you have to be long to be able to play this place very well. Celine Boutier played well here last year. She's 100-1, not the same golfer, but worth considering. I think Lexi Thompson, a part-timer, is worth a look. She played pretty well, particularly in the 3rd round, the Chevron. And I think she still kind of has that interest in her to kind of do well in these tournaments. And then one last person I will point out is Amari Avery. She's 180-1. She's playing predominantly on the Epson Tour right now. She's gone back and forth between the 2 tours, trying to get her full-time status on the Epson Tour. She won her first professional event 2 events ago on the Epson Tour, finished second in the last one in their biggest money event of the season on the Epson Tour. I think you have to consider her here, even though she's playing against way better competition now, right? But I think you have to consider her because she can do it. She can do it. And I think she's starting to believe she can do it. And I think that's important. So I wanted to point those bets out for the LPGA. Champions Tour Insperity Invitational in the Woodlands, Texas. If you're not betting and only betting Stuart Sink at plus 225, you are wasting your time and everyone else's and just lighting money on fire because he's currently unbeatable on this tour. He's longer than everybody else. He knows it. He played so well in the last 2 majors. And then I know he didn't win the event in Duluth, Georgia, which is a place where he had won on the PGA Tour. But if you beat him, you got lucky, basically, or something weird happened. Plus 225, I think, is really the only play for him. Then Live Golf is in Northern Virginia at Trump National, Washington, D.C. It's in Sterling, Virginia, across the Potomac River. I'm going to go down there on Thursday and probably one other day over the course of the weekend. I know there's a psychology angle here other than just playing John Rahm at plus 270. And that is, for these players, they know Live is about to change in a big way. They don't know how yet, right? They could have a range of possibilities from the tour goes away to they play for way less money to they don't finish the season. This is the 7th event. There are 6 left after this one. There's supposed to be 14 events, but the one in New Orleans got canceled or moved or however you want to interpret that. But they're not playing it. So these players have to be wondering, how many more bites of the apple am I going to get at this $30 million purse thing, $20 million individual purse thing on Live Golf? And maybe there's a desperation there that makes certain guys more interesting. But John Rahm feels like the most obvious play in the world at plus 270. Tyrrell Hatton plays pretty obvious at 14-1 because he's been playing pretty well lately. I think Tom McKibben's got to be kind of interesting. Again, the Legion 13 team guys have played pretty well. He's 40-1. I think he's kind of interesting because he's just gotten into the PGA Championship, and I think that's a big boost for that guy. I think that means something. Other than that, I think you have a hard time trying to justify betting anybody else here. Harold Varner III is really your only other, I think, interesting play, and that's because of course, history. He won here the other time Liv was played here. He's 86 to 1, but I don't even really love that much. It's kind of hard to kind of bet anyone other than the top 3 or 4 guys on Live because of the way the season has gone. So you want to throw a dart at somebody else, have at it. But I think the more prudent play is really just bet Rahm, Bryson, and Tyrrell Hatton. If any of them win, you're not in bad shape. If you just bet a same size unit on all of them. If Rahm wins, you lose a little bit. If the other 2 win, you come out pretty good. And everything else is gravy. Forget it and just kind of set it and forget it. Arbitrage strategy all the way there. All right, I think that's going to do it for everything that we have on this episode. Sorry for trying to jam it in a relatively short time. I don't want you to have to listen to like an hour-long diatribe about a bunch of golf tournaments. I'd rather get you in, get you out, and let you move on with your life, especially on a Wednesday doing this show. We'll be back next week. We're going to talk PGA Championship. The decks are clear for the PGA Championship. We'll talk about that in a couple of different shows, a couple of different ways next week. We'll be back on video for that. My high school golf season ends this afternoon, actually. So there'll be a little bit more time during the weekdays to be able to do the proper recording, the proper job that needs to be done to do a show and video, and not just go over the data that we have and that we have available to members. That said, you should become a member at Golf Newsnet. $40 for 1 year, $70 for 2 years, $100 for 3 years over at golfnewsnet.com. If you don't want to pay for it, and I'm not advising that this is a long-term strategy, but we just started a big email subscriber contest. If you subscribe to our newsletter and you are a subscriber on July 31st, you have to subscribe by then and be a subscriber at the cutoff date. You're entered to win a $2,500 giveaway. Beautiful package of all kinds of cool golf stuff, golf balls, golf shoes, golf bags, lots of different things to help your game. But you also, regardless of whether you win, get 3 free months of Golf Newsnet membership. So sign up for the newsletter. We will get you free membership for 3 months, and that basically covers the rest of major season. So if I were you and you're not a member already, I would consider that. But that's not financial advice. Get a hold of me, Ryan at thegolfnewsnet.com. You can check me out on social media at Ryan Ballingy or Ryan Ballingy Golf. More easily, you can find me over at Golf Newsnet at that handle on any social media service. Good luck with all your bets this week. We'll be back next week for another major championship. Big week this week, though. Good luck with everything you got out there, and we'll see you next time right here on The Press.